Welcome to CEC lectures. Myself, Dr. Preeti Jagwani. I am from Department of Computer Science, Arifat College, University of Delhi. So today we are going to begin with a new series which is HTML. So HTML is a hypertext markup language. So as the full form of the series or of the title says, hypertext markup language, that means we in this series we are going to learn a particular language. What is that language? It is a type of markup language. We will see what it is. So this series is going to be about the HTML and its whole commands and all those things. So HTML, as I have told you, is basically a language we can say in which most of the websites or almost all websites are written. So HTML basically a language which is used to create web pages and make them functional. Now web page, you all understand, that means it's a you can say a page of a website or whatever is being displayed on the browser when you search internet. So internet is being searched in the form of we can say websites, and the individual sections are those web pages. Now if you wonder that how these pages are being kind of written or how these pages are being created, so HTML is the element behind them, or HTML is, we can say, is the tool behind creation of these web pages. So this HTML was first created by Sir Tim Berners-Lee way back in 1989. His team and Sir Tim Berners-Lee himself started creation of this HTML thing, and the version which was first started was HTML 1.0. As I have told you, that is it stands for hypertext markup language. Now here are two terms. One is hypertext and another one is markup, which are kind of technical, and before going into nitty-gritties of HTML we need to understand about these two terms, markup and hypertext. So hypertext basically means that the document contains links that allows the reader to jump to the other places in the document, or maybe to another document, or it could be onto the another website as well. So for example, you have kind of one web page which is displayed on the screen, and it shows let's say a link which is click here. So whenever you hover your mouse around on that term click here, that mouse pointer generally changes into the form of a hand, and whenever you press left click onto that hand, what happens, it will take you to the another link. Now that another link could be any place in the same document, or it could be into the different document, or it could be you can say altogether on a different website. So that document or that particular link is basically known as hypertext. So hypertext is basically a link which will allow a user to navigate from one place to another place. Now that was about hypertext. If we see what is a markup language, so till this point we have seen programming languages, and that this term programming language is a very familiar term for us, because in the earlier series we have seen many programming languages. So but what about the markup language? So markup is basically, or markup language is a way that is used by a device in order to control the text, in order to process the text, and in order to present the text. So that means that a computer uses to control how a text is processed and presented. That way is actually the markup language. And for HTML, this markup language is going to use two things. One is tags and attributes in order to achieve the control of text processing and text presentation. So text processing and text presentation is the we can say key element for this markup language, which is hypertext markup language. And to do this, HTML uses basically two elements or two things, we can say. One is tags and attributes. So this tags and attributes we will be covering in a short while, but before that, let us see. We have seen what is HTML and what do you mean by hypertext, a link that allow you to navigate, and a markup language, basically a way for a computer or maybe any other device which is used to control how any text is processed and presented. And HTML is hypertext markup language. So markup basically refers to the data included in an electronic document which is distinct from the document's content, or we can say it is typically not included in the representation of the document for the end user. So for example, I am having let's say I am having one line of text, and in order to present that text differently, or in order to present that text beautifully, I am going to kind of include some data, or include some techniques, or include some commands or tags which through which that particular line of the text will be kind of presented differently. So that data is known as markup. We will be seeing its example in a short while. And this markup is actually a tool which is used to control the display of the document. And in the display of the document, what it is trying to control, obviously it is going to enrich the content to facilitate automated processing. So that's the use of markup, we can say. And HTML is not the only markup language. We have others as well, such as we have HTML, standard generalized markup language, then we have XML, extensible markup language. So but this HTML is also one of the languages which is very widely used for creation of web pages. And this HTML is having predefined semantics for presentations, means that the specification prescribes the aspect that how the data will be presented on a particular media. Now what media I am talking about? So it could be your computer, it could be your mobile, it could be your printer. So how this data is being presented on the, or how is data is being structured on a particular media, all these specifications are covered by HTML with using the predefined presentation semantics. And as I have told you, there are other markup languages as well, which are HTML, HTML and XML. The markup symbols can be interpreted by a device. Now device, as I told you, it could be a printer, it could be computer, it could be a mobile, or it could be a browser, to control how a document should look when printed or displayed on the monitor. So that markup symbols are basically, we can say, the commands in order to control how a text is going to displayed on a particular device. And that's what the utility of markup languages is. So a markup document is basically consisting of, we can say, two elements or two sections, you can say. One is text which is to be displayed, and another one is the commands of that markup language which will we can say enrich, or which will modify the text on how it is going to be displayed. So one is what is to be displayed, and another one is how it is to be displayed. These two sections are going to be we can say together can be called as a complete markup document. Now how, the first question that comes up in our mind is how to write the these markup languages files, or how to write the code of this HTML language or hypertext markup language, and how to run this, how to execute this. So the first thing here is, for any to create any markup language file, any kind of text editor can be used. For those who need some syntax highlighting, that means specific keywords in red and some other tags in green or something of that sort. They may need a more advanced text editor, like a full-fledged integrated development environment, or maybe a notepad plus plus. But for HTML, we can use the most simplest one, which is the text editor, and that is Notepad. Or for HTML, we can also use the specifically designated HTML editor such as Dreamweaver. Now it is up to your choice that you want to use an specific editor, or you want to go with the simplest versions of the editor like Notepad. Both are okay. Both are fine. Now coming to the tags and attributes. So tags are basically the elements which are used to mark up the start of an HTML element, and they are usually enclosed in an angle bracket. For example, we have one tag which is H1. So basically H1 is written inside the angle bracket. So here this angle, presence of an angle bracket signifies the presence of a tag. So H1 here is a tag, basically an element which is used to mark up the not only the start of an HTML element, they are also used for the start of your HTML document. Now this tags, you can say, basically in the simplest language you can say command. So basically this tag is it could be of two types. One is then open tag, another one is a closed tag. When we say that closed tag means that tag has to be open and that tag has to be closed. That means, for example, I have written angle bracket H1, which is showing the opening of an H1 tag, which is heading 1, and whenever I am saying within the angle bracket a backslash and then H1, so backslash and then the name of the tag is actually showing the closure of the tag. So there can be two types of tags as far as HTML is concerned. These tags can be only open tag, or it could be open and closed, a paired or a non-paired tag. A paired tag is which is having opening as well as its closing, and a non-paired tag which is having only opening, no closing. We will be covering these types of tags in the examples. Now this was about tags, so not very technically, but yes, you can say that these tags are nothing but commands which are to be written inside an HTML document, and using these tags the markup thing will happen. Apart from tags, we have studied one more term which is known as attributes. So attribute is basically, we can say, additional pieces of information. As the name indicate, attributes. So attribute is basically a property, we can say, as far as our knowledge kind of in programming languages is concerned. Attributes is kind of property. So here attribute is actually additional pieces of information. For example, we have some information like whenever we are placing an, let's say, image tag which is used to place an image over there. So apart from the source information, which is a mandatory information to be there, we can have height and width of the image to be displayed, that what height and what width is going to be displayed for, in what height and in what width that image is going to be displayed. So that height and width are actually attributes, and tag is img, which is for image. So I am just taking an example of displaying an image, and img is the tag, and other whatever information you have attached, additional information which is placed inside the opening tag, that is known as attribute. So here your source is also an attribute, then you have height, that is also an attribute, then you have a width, that is also an attribute, and an text alt, alt, that is also, alt is basically for alternate text, in the sense that whenever image is not not found, what alternate text will be displayed by the browser. So that is basically, we can say, is your a kind of attribute. Now in order to execute, or in order to kind of create a complete HTML file, what all things are required? One is your editor, which is the simplest version of this could be Notepad, we can say. And now the thing is, where are we going to run these files? So let's say we have taken one file. Now how are we going to run that? First of all, we will be saving that particular file with the extension .html. So for example, using the Notepad application, you have written one, or you have created one HTML file, and the name of the HTML file is first. So whenever you are saying that, whenever you are saving that particular file in the name of first, the extension of that particular file should be .html, so that the system is able to recognize this as an HTML document. And now as the system is able to recognize, or is able to take this as an HTML document, this is kind of, we can say, very kind of sure, or we can say very much obvious that this is going to be run on the browser. Why? Because we have seen that HTML is there to create web pages. Now web pages, whenever we are talking about, so any web page has to be executed, or has to be we can say displayed onto the browser. So here is what we are going to do. We will be typing our commands on the Notepad editor, saving that file using the .html extension. For example, in the C drive desktop, you have saved your first .html. Now in order to run that, in order to execute that first .html, you need to open the browser on your machine, and then the local path of that particular file, HTML file, is to be shown, that is within the C drive, within the desktop, it is first.html, and the moment you press enter, your file will be executed on this. Now how are we going to execute it? These two things we have we have seen. Now we will see that how to construct an HTML page. So the first thing through which an HTML page is going to be constructed is with the help of tags, we can say, simply with the help of tags. So we have to have some tags, and we have to have some text on which those tags will be applied in order to control the appearance of that particular text. So the tags should be placed underneath each other at the top of every HTML page which we are going to create. So a HTML code or an HTML page is going to we can say take the different tags. So the first tag which we are going to use is doc type. So doc type is the tag which is written inside, like all other tags, it is going to be written inside the angle brackets, and we will be saying exclamation doc type HTML. So this tag specifies the language in which you are going to write that particular page, and here in this case the language is HTML5. Now what is this 5? 5 is the latest version of this HTML which is available in the market. So first tag which we are going to use is doc type HTML, which is going to specify the language which is being used in writing that particular page. Now apart from that doc type HTML, we have a tag that signals that from here on we are going to write an HTML code, or basically in simple language we can say we have one tag in order to earmark the starting of the HTML code, and that tag is HTML written inside the angle bracket. So wherever I am talking about the tags are to be enclosed inside the angle brackets. Now within this HTML we have some portions of structure, some portions of a page structure. The first portion of a page is known as head. Head is basically the place where all the metadata for the page goes. Now what metadata I am talking about? It is going to contain first of all thing the title and other metadata information like author, then kind of some other important information related to the keyword searching. Keyword searching in the sense, now this metadata is basically containing the information which is meant for search engines or any other computer program. So metadata contain all those other things, for example keywords on the basis of which your page would be searched, who is the author of the page, and then so on and so forth. All this information contained under the metadata, and metadata is basically contained under the head. Not only metadata, but there is one more tag which is known as title. So that title tag is containing the title of the page which will be shown on the top of the browser. So that was about the head stuff. Coming to the body part, the body is basically you can say where the content of the page goes. The content of the page goes inside the body tag. Now in order to understand the kind of structure of an HTML page, let's see this figure on the screen. We have enclosed an structure. This structure is just to give you a feel of how this head and body kind of work in consonance with each other. So within the opening and closing tag of HTML, please notice the opening tag HTML and the closing tag which is HTML within at the top and at the bottom of the document. Then if you can see clearly, the document is basically divided into two portions. One is the head part and another one is the body part. Within the head part, this head part is signifies, or the head part is shown with the help of opening and closing head tags. Similarly, body is shown with the help of opening and closing body tag. Then within the head we have title. So there is title opening, which is whatever title we are going to write, that will be taken up, and then we have title closing. Now apart from that, whatever text we are going to write will go inside the body tag. So we have HTML total document, then that total document is divided into two parts. One is the head part, another one is the body part, and in head part you can have title, you can have other metadata information, but apart from this nothing is going. Whatever content you want to display on the we can say work area or of the browser page, that goes inside the body. I am sure that now you are able to understand that how this structure is going on. So let's say we try to have our first program of the HTML thing. So I am repeating what we are going to do. We will be taking one notepad editor and we are going to write exclamation mark doc type HTML is the first tag, which is a non-paired tag. Then there is HTML opening, and at the last line we have HTML closing. Closing tag is signified with the help of slash. Then we have within HTML we have head opening, then title opening, whatever page title you want to have here, you can place it here, then slash title, and then we have slash head. Slash head means this signifies or this shows the closing of head. After closing the head, there is opening of body, and the body is being closed just about the HTML tag closing, which is basically the showing the end of the document. So you can understand this with the help, as we have seen that figure, that HTML document is divided into two parts. One is head and another one is body, and within the head we can have title, we can have our metadata, whatever kind of information is required for search engine in order to speed up the search. Now what about body? Whatever else, what text you want to display on the actual work area of the browser, that will be that will go under the body. And if we want to have a look on the output, so here we have seen within the body I have just written two statements. One is heading 1 opening, and this is a heading, and then heading 1 close. So here you can see we have markup, which is h1 open and h1 close, and we have the text, which is this is a heading. On this text, this is a heading, this markup h1 is going to be applied. In the very next line we have written p and slash p, which is opening p and closing p. P stands for paragraph, and there is a text which says this is a paragraph. So p and slash p, opening and closing of paragraph, and apart from these markups we have the text which is to be enclosed within these text. And as an output we have we can see that this is a heading, and at the bottom line or at the second line this is a paragraph. So this is going to be the output of your code or a very small code which we have seen at this point. So let me summarize. In this lecture what we have covered is what is HTML and how these markup languages are different from your normal programming languages, what actually markup language is and what is the hypertext. Then some basics about the creation and the structure of HTML page. Here is a list of references which is being used for preparation of this lecture. Hope you had a fruitful learning. Thank you.